Welcome back. With the Democratic National Convention set to begin virtually just hours from now, our latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll offers some encouraging news for Joe Biden as he enters the convention and some troubling news for the president. He still has a 50% problem, as we called it this morning in First Read. 50% of registered voters currently support Biden. He leads President Trump by 9 points. 52% have a negative view of the president, including 44% who have a very negative view of him. And 53% of those we surveyed disapprove of the job he's doing, including 47% who strongly disapprove. That's what we mean when we say the president has a 50% problem. But Biden has his own challenges in our new NBC Wall Street Journal poll as well when it comes to a few key issues. The president has an edge over Biden, including on handling the economy, where in our poll we have the president with a 10-point advantage on that issue. So let's kick things off now with David Plouffe, former Obama campaign manager, now an NBC News political analyst. So, David, this is a unique experience entering a convention in a pretty strong position where Joe Biden is. It means the convention needs to, quote, do no harm, because it's hard to imagine a bounce, because I think he's at close to the ceiling for any Democratic nominee at this point. So what is the job of this convention this week?
Well, Chuck, that's an incredible, important point you just said. I think he is close to a ceiling, so you're not going to see the traditional 3 to 5 point bump. I think he's got two main jobs, which is really the main requirements for the rest of the campaign. Hold on to as much of the support as he currently has with swing voters, and then, increase both those that need to register over the next 45 days and make sure they're turning out. That economic question is one. You still have a decent chunk of voters unsure who they trust more on the economy. So this is a great opportunity this week to talk about his leadership, both of the Recovery Act in the past and what he'll do in the future. And I think part of this convention has to really be very elemental to make sure people understand how to vote. There's going to have to be a lot of education done, both the next 4 days, but also over the next, few weeks.
It's interesting when you look at, there's two ways to look at our numbers, or frankly, all of these numbers that we're seeing. You can look at it through the prism of the economy and say, wow, Biden's in an amazing place, even as he's losing on the economy. On the other hand, you could look at it and say, oh, that's the president's path back to relevancy in this campaign. So let me ask it this way. In 2008, you guys had one signature economic idea you'd throw out there. I think it was a middle class tax cut, and you had that pledge you weren't going to cut. In fact, middle class, nobody making over $250,000 a year, right? That was a key part of your sort of economic pledge to the American public in 2008. Does Joe Biden need something similar to hang his hat on, something tangible that people can connect on the economy, one simple thing that they'll be able to hold him accountable for as president?
Well, it's helpful, Chuck, although I think by the time we got to mid-September back in 2008, it was less that one signature idea and just a question of who did you trust more, Obama or McCain, to right the ship, particularly after Lehman Brothers collapsed. And so I think that's the question now for the American people is who do you trust to dig us out of this? And that's where the pandemic, the distribution of a vaccine, the economy, all these what seem like individual issues are tied together. So I think the sense is what you want coming out of Thursday night for the American people to have a sense of this guy can dig us out of this hole. He's got good ideas. They're focused on the middle class and working people in poverty. He's got a plan to lift them up. So I think it's probably in this case less one idea than it is just a sense Trump hasn't been up to this. And that's where you have to say right now people don't trust him on the pandemic. The Biden campaign has to link that to the economy. If you can't trust him on the pandemic, there's no way you can trust him to rebuild the economy. And I still think there's a lot of work to be done there. And I think you'll see speakers this week hammer that point home, including Joe Biden on Thursday night.
So as we debate about how important these conventions are, Mark Murr and I were discussing how nobody had a worse 2 weeks over a convention period in the modern era than Donald Trump. His convention was a disaster. Ted Cruz, that whole mess, that was not a party united. And then the president ended up picking fights with Democratic speakers and Gold Star parents. It was a debacle. He had to change campaign managers, and yet he won the election. So are we to look back at that experience, David, and say to ourselves, be careful putting too much stock in these next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think we should be careful about that. They have mattered historically. Obviously, even in 2012, the Clint Eastwood moment with Mitt Romney, wasn't a great moment.
Yeah.
I mean, conventions are like free throws. You should be able to get out of it everything you want. You obviously had Pat Buchanan's speech during George H.W. Bush's time, so it can hurt you. But again, that race was different. I mean, you started with a poll, Chuck. 50-41 is a lot different than where we were in 2016, which was Hillary had a lead, but it was 44-41. And so you're so smart to focus on the 50% question. That is entirely different. If you show me any state, a battleground state, where, 30 days from now, if the Biden lead is 46-44, I will have zero comfort. Okay. But if he's got a lead like this, where you're knocking on the doorstep, and, this is a national poll, but in the battleground state, he's in the high 40s, low 50s. So that's the key thing is our convention's important. I'm very much looking forward to the next 4 nights. I think of the two, the much more important one will be the Trump convention. Does he try to appeal to the middle of the electorate? Does he tell a cohesive economic story? Or is it basically a bunch of insults? And I think if he missed this convention's much more important than Donald Trump than the one was in 2016.
It's an excellent point, and I think one a lot of folks need to figure out. Trump's the one that needs this convention. Biden doesn't. I think that's the bottom line, is what you're saying there as well.
Yes.
David Plouffe, as always, sir, thanks for getting us smarter today. Appreciate it. We'll be talking with you quite a bit, thanks, I think, over the next couple of weeks for sure, and next couple of months. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.